Welcome back. At the Capitol today, lawmakers press state agencies on several issues impacting students.
And as Raquel Kahlo reports, those concerns are from getting behind the wheel to staying cool in the classroom. Raquel.
Yes, school leaders were pressed during a state Senate briefing about access to driver's education, air conditioning in schools, and how the state handles Medicaid billing and reimbursement. A recent state audit found that access to driver's ed classes was limited, with a long wait list, inconsistent instruction, and confusion over how students are accepted into the program. During the briefing, State Auditor Les Hondo raised concerns about the state's driver's education program, which is jointly run by the DOE and DOT. Hondo said there were recommendations offered to improve the program.
Out of the 10 recommendations that the department received, 8 have been implemented and are done. We anticipate it being completed by January 2027. There is definitely more articulation going on within the section to be sure that everyone is well aware of what the requirements are, what the driver's education program is, and the importance of us working together with the Department of Transportation.
Kondo said those issues create barriers for students who rely on public driver's education and don't have access to private programs. Lawmakers also questioned DOE officials about efforts to reduce extreme heat in classrooms and whether schools are receiving proper Medicaid reimbursements for services provided to eligible students. DOE officials told senators they are working to address the concerns raised and improve access and consistency moving forward. Raquel Kahlo for Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Raquel.